Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to take a shortcut to some pretty complex knowledge by looking at, well, the simplest source material we could find.
Exactly. It's an excerpt from an Easy English podcast, and the topic is just having a bad day.
Right. But our mission here is to treat this simple narrative not just as a story for learning a language, but as this, meticulously engineered piece of instruction.
We're basically trying to extract the psychological algorithm that's embedded in it, the blueprint for how you manage a setback, but distilled down to its absolute core.
The story is about a character named Leo, and it's called A Bad Day, But It's Okay. And we want to trace his experience from the moment it all starts to go wrong to the moment he kind of reframes it.
We want to figure out why this specific sequence is such a powerful model for resilience. So let's unpack the chaos.
Okay, so Leo's morning. It starts with what you could only call foundational failure. He wakes up late. The alarm just didn't ring.
That's the external trigger.
And the internal reaction is immediate, like instantaneous. The text says he felt stressed.
And that speed is so important. What this simple story shows is that the second the external world fails you, your internal state can shift to stress. Just like that.
He doesn't even have time to process it. He just responds by moving very fast, trying to catch up.
It's the classic reactive panic. He tries to fix the first failure, but the external world just kind of doubles down on the chaos.
Yeah, he rushes out the door only to find out he's already missed the bus.
And this is where the psychological weight really starts to build up. It goes from one single problem, the alarm, to this compounded failure.
Right. The first bus is gone, and then the next bus is late.
So now he's just stuck. He's in this state of suspended frustration, looking at his phone, and the text says he's feeling both tired and upset.
I wonder if that rapid succession of small disasters is actually worse for us psychologically than one
massive crisis. Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what cognitive load theory would suggest.
Really?
Yeah. With one big event, your brain can often switch into this high-level crisis mode. But when you face this steady stream of tiny, uncontrollable problems, it just drains your mental resources until you're running at a deficit.
So that feeling, the tired and upset part, is really the engine of the stress.
It is. So by the time Leo even gets to the office, he's running on empty.
And when you're cognitively drained like that, that's when the inevitable mistake happens.
Correct. Leo makes a small mistake. He sends the wrong email. And even though the story makes a point of saying his boss was not angry, the damage is already done internally.
He felt embarrassed.
Deeply.
So why is that? Why is the embarrassment of a small mistake often more painful than the actual consequence? Functionally, nothing really bad happened, but that embarrassment feels like the emotional peak of his morning.
Because that mistake, that email, is the visible public manifestation of the internal stress he's been fighting all morning.
Okay.
He might have felt like he was in control when he was rushing for the bus, but this mistake confirms out loud that he's lost that battle. That embarrassment is the final breaking point.
So you have this perfect storm. External failures lead to internal fatigue, which guarantees a public mistake, which culminates in this deep internal embarrassment. The morning has successfully hit rock bottom.
Yes. But the brilliance of this little story is what comes next. The genius isn't just in setting up the crisis, it's in the pivot. Let's talk about what stops the cascade.
Okay, so Leo hits this turning point right around lunchtime. He needs to shift from bad to okay. And the story gives us an external catalyst for that. A coworker.
A coworker who just smiled and offered this simple, non-judgmental reassurance. It's okay. Everyone has bad days.
That's it.
And that's so profound. It introduces immediate validation. Leo didn't need someone to fix his alarm or unsend the email. He just needed permission to be having a bad day.
It normalizes the experience. It flips the script from I am failing to this kind of thing happens to everyone. But I do wonder, is a smile and a simple phrase really enough to stop that kind of internal spiral? Or is that just the spark? How much of this is the coworker and how much is Leo doing the heavy lifting himself?
That is a crucial distinction. The coworker provides the external pause button, the validation, but Leo is the one who actually performs the internal reset.
Okay.
The source then gives us two very specific intentional actions he takes. Action 1, do the deep breath. Action 2, he drank some water.
They seem so simple, almost too basic to work. A deep breath and some water. And yet the story says the result was immediate. I felt calmer.
And this is where we should really lean in, because there is hard science behind those two steps. When Leo takes a deep breath, he is intentionally activating his parasympathetic nervous system.
The vagus nerve, right?
Exactly. He's stimulating the vagus nerve, which is the main highway between your brain and your body, regulating your heart rate, your stress hormones.
Yeah.
A slow, deep breath is literally telling your brain the emergency is over.
It's like you're manually turning off the fight or flight siren that the missed buses had switched on.
You are. And the water. When you're stressed, your body pumps out cortisol. And even low-level dehydration can mimic and worsen the physical symptoms of stress.
So by drinking water, he's addressing that physical feedback loop.
He's hydrating himself back toward a state of balance. Those two acts together, breath and water, are a combined neurological and physiological reset.
It's an incredibly elegant self-correction routine, stripped down to its most basic, actionable parts.
And the recovery isn't about fixing the past, it's about resetting his state so the afternoon can actually function.
And it works. After the reset, he focuses, he finishes his tasks, and here's the best part. He goes home tired, yes, but he also felt proud.
The day that started as a total failure is ultimately labeled okay.
I love that conclusion he reaches. Today was not a perfect day, but it was okay. He finds that sense of pride through persistence, not through perfection.
Now, if we shift our focus a little to how this story works as a teaching tool, the vocabulary itself is really interesting. The creators intentionally chose words that teach emotional literacy, not just English.
Right, the helpful word section, it immediately draws a line in the sand. The problem words are very clear. Late, tired, mistake, problem, stressed.
All defining the chaos. And notice the contrast. They're weighed against just two resolution words, calm and better.
The entire messy human experience of recovery is just condensed into that one transition, from stressed to calm.
This simplification is what makes the emotional journey so manageable and, repeatable. It's teaching you how to reframe your feelings through vocabulary.
It gives the learner and us really a clear cognitive path to follow. Move from the language of chaos to the language of management.
And that path is then cemented in the practice time sentences. These aren't just drills. They're structured more like psychological mantras.
Let's break down that four-part sequence because it is brilliant. It starts with acceptance. Today did not go well.
Which is step one. You have to acknowledge reality without judgment. You stop fighting what already happened.
Then it grounds the feeling in a specific event. I missed the bus. So the stress isn't this vague, overwhelming thing. It's tied to a concrete problem.
Exactly. Which prevents the stress from defining your entire sense of self. It's followed immediately by the emotional acknowledgement, I felt stress.
So he felt stress. He is not an inherently stressed person. That separation is key.
It is. It's essential for self-compassion. And then you get the final forward-looking conclusion, tomorrow is a new day.
The ultimate antidote. It stops you from ruminating and carrying that failure into the next day.
That whole declarative structure is just so powerful. The story reinforces this idea that setbacks are universal. Bad days happen, and that's okay. So you get this incredibly robust three-part narrative. Problem, intervention, and then resolution.
It's a completely compelling model. It reminds you that stories are maybe the best way to embed complex knowledge naturally.
Yeah.
For us, we've just extracted the structure of a good self-correction narrative.
Yeah, we've taken this simple story and found a really powerful, transferable framework for emotional regulation. The sequence is so clear.
Acknowledge the triggers, recognize the stress, find some validation to hit pause.
Then execute your own internal reset with small physical acts like breathing, and then refocus on finishing achievable tasks to rebuild that sense of competence and pride.
We examined how a forgotten alarm and a missed bus gave us this surprisingly deep framework for handling adversity. It's a three-step instruction manual: acknowledgement, pause, and reset, then focus.
And this brings us back to that really critical point in the final outcome. Leo felt proud at the end of the day.
Right.
He didn't feel proud because he fixed his mistakes or achieved perfection. He felt proud because he finished his tasks. He persisted after the failure. He chose recovery over giving up. So this raises a really profound question for you, the listener, as you think about your own challenges. If that feeling of genuine pride is tied to persistence, to just finishing the tasks despite the mess rather than to achieving flawless execution, how does intentionally focusing on these small, specific acts of recovery change your personal definition of a successful day?
That structure of recovery and persistence is definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Keep asking questions and keep exploring this knowledge.
Okay, let's get into this. We've got a fascinating set of sources today, all giving us this super detailed look at a single day
Just one ordinary day.
in the life of someone we're calling Lena. And our goal here isn't, to find some big dramatic story. It's much quieter than that.
It is.
We're using her 24 hours to see just how deeply technology is woven into, well, everything, how it's become almost invisible.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
For this deep dive, we're really dissecting her day, almost minute by minute, to pull out the key functions technology is playing.
So not just a list of gadgets?
No, not at all. It's about what those gadgets do,
Yeah.
how they support her. We're talking efficiency, information, and maybe most importantly, human connection.
And the sources are pretty clear that Lena's day is, well, it's a mirror for a lot of us.
It reflects how so many of us are living right now, yes.
So let's jump right in with the morning integration, as you called it. Because the very first thing she does, the action that starts her day, is technological.
It is. And this is where you immediately see things start to converge. She wakes up to her phone alarm.
Okay, pretty standard.
But think about it. A generation ago, that was a clock.
Yeah.
One job. Today, the second she turns off that alarm, the phone, it just transforms.
It's not a clock anymore.
It's a communication hub. She sees the time, but right there with it are new messages. A quick text from her sister, something from a friend about plans.
So it's already doing 3 things before she's even properly awake. Alarm, timepiece, and social connector.
It's the central hub for her entire morning routine. It's sort of the single pane of glass she looks through to start her day.
I like that, a single pane of glass.
And that glass immediately pivots.
Yeah.
She goes to make coffee. And what's she doing? She's listening to a podcast on that same phone.
The source mentioned why, right?
It did. It says she enjoys it because it helps her learn new things.
Which is fascinating because that's what this is all about, isn't it? Maximizing time.
Absolutely.
She's taking what used to be dead time waiting for coffee and stacking it with learning, with brain work.
We call that cognitive stacking. You're turning a moment of low physical effort into high mental productivity.
And this idea of learning comes up again later, doesn't it?
It does. The sources note she also uses tech to learn English every day. So it's a consistent theme. Even those little moments are opportunities for growth.
Okay, so she's had her coffee, she's learned something. But before she even walks out the door, the phone changes roles again.
Right. It becomes a practical planner, a predictive tool.
And we've got 2 key examples here.
First, just simple logistics. Comfort. She checks a weather app.
Gonna be cold today.
So she wears a jacket. It's a small thing, but her physical comfort for the day is a decision that's been, completely outsourced to an algorithm.
And the second one is about time, punctuality.
She uses her phone to check the bus schedule.
That she isn't late for work.
And this is technology reducing friction. She's removing all the uncertainty from her commute. She knows exactly when to leave, no guesswork involved.
And that commute itself, let's follow her onto the bus. That's where the tech integration continues.
Oh, absolutely. She puts in her headphones, plugged into the same phone, of course, and she's listening to music or reading the news.
Which the source makes a point of saying makes the travel time easier and more enjoyable.
Think about what's really happening there. Time that used to be passive, just staring out a window, is now active time.
It's either leisure with the music or it's more learning with the news.
The line between downtime and productive time just gets completely blurred.
So she arrives at work, fully optimized, and that brings us to our second section. Work, productivity, and transactions.
Right.
The phone, which has been the star so far, sort of hands off the main role to the computer.
For sure. The computer is the hub of her professional life. Her entire day revolves around it. Writing emails, jumping into online meetings, working on documents.
She is completely dependent on that digital interface.
It's more than dependence. It's a total digital ecosystem. Her work, her output, it doesn't exist outside of that technology.
But the sources brought up a really interesting trade-off with that kind of total reliance.
Yes, and this is maybe the most important insight in this section.
A benefit is obvious. The source says technology helps her finish her work faster.
But the flip side is that Lena sometimes feels tired.
Let's dig into that. Why would working faster make you more tired?
Because digital efficiency demands this sustained, high-level focus, a really high cognitive load.
You're not just shuffling papers.
No, you're constantly switching contexts, from an email to a video call to a shared document that 3 other people are editing live.
All at once?
Technology removes the physical friction, but it can massively increase the mental friction.
Yeah.
You have to maintain this intense focus for hours. It's draining.
So we get speed, but the cost is mental energy. Burnout, basically.
Exactly. Digital burnout. It's a very real trade-off.
So even her lunch break, when she finally steps away, is still powered by tech.
Oh, completely. It's all about optimized convenience.
Tell us how she gets her lunch.
She orders her food using an app on her phone. She pays online right in the app,
And then just goes and picks it up.
just picks it up. The source makes a point to say it's quick and easy.
But is it just trading one kind of friction for another? You're not waiting in line, but you're scrolling through menus, reading reviews.
That's the digital friction, sure. Bit of choice overload. But the benefit she perceives is speed and control.
No mistakes in the order.
Right. And the transaction itself is invisible. It's instantaneous. It just reinforces this feeling that her whole life is managed digitally.
Okay, so that brings us through the workday and into the evening, and this is where we see the final critical roles tech plays: connection and relaxation.
And this is so important for quality of life. After work, her focus shifts immediately to connection.
The video call.
She makes a video call to her mother.
And the source gave us a key piece of context there.
It did. It specifically says they live far apart, but the technology helps them feel close.
That's more than just talking. It's about emotional closeness.
It's manufactured proximity. The video, seeing her mother's face, it bridges a huge geographical gap that would have felt, much more isolating a few decades ago.
So tech is actively maintaining the relationship, keeping that bond strong.
It's a tool against loneliness. It's incredibly powerful.
And once that connection is made, the tech shifts gears again for the last time in the day.
It facilitates the wind down.
The relaxation phase.
Precisely. The device itself changes. She switches from her phone to her tablet, and the activity becomes pure passive consumption. She's watching a movie on the sofa.
So we've seen the phone do everything. Logistics, learning, communication. Now the tablet is just for leisure.
It confirms the whole idea. Every single part of her life, from work to rest, is managed or mediated by a screen. She gets exactly what she wants to watch instantly.
So if we pull back and look at Lena's entire day from that first alarm to the movie at night, what's the big summary from the source material?
The summary is really clear, and it covers the 4 big areas we saw. Technology is a huge part of her life because it helps her work, learn, communicate, and relax.
All 4?
It's a complete, relentless cycle. The learning part is threaded through the whole day. The podcast, the news, her English practice. It's a utility that structures everything.
It really is a closed digital loop. It starts the second she wakes up.
And it doesn't end until right before she goes to sleep.
What's the very last action?
The final action is setting her alarm for the next day on her phone.
So the same device that starts the cycle, closes it,
and gets ready to start all over again tomorrow. It's the ultimate sign of reliance.
So we've laid out all these amazing benefits: the speed, the convenience, the connection. But the sources, after detailing all of that, they give a really important piece of advice, a learning tip for you listening at home.
It's the crucial counterbalance to everything we've just said.
Right.
Even though technology helps with work, learning, communication, and relaxation, the source is direct. It says, it is important to take breaks.
Which speaks directly to that fatigue, that digital burnout we were talking about earlier.
It acknowledges the trade-off. The tools are powerful, but they demand that we rest from them.
And that, I think, leads us to our final provocative thought. It's a question, really, that comes out of seeing Lena's day laid out like this.
Go on.
If technology is this woven into every single part of the day, work, travel, talking to family, even relaxing.
And if the main tool for managing your life, the phone, is also your main tool for connection and fun,
then what does an effective break actually look like?
That's the question. If your way of resting is to look at another screen like her tablet, where do you draw the line? Where is the real boundary between being reliant on tech and actually truly resting from it?
That's the challenge, I think, in this seamlessly integrated world. Something for you to think about as you go through your own digital day. I feel like we have to start this deep dive with a bit of a confession.
Ooh, a confession. That sounds interesting.
It is a little bit. It's about the morning routine, capital M, capital R.
Ah, yes, the mythical beast.
Exactly, because if you look at the productivity world right now, all over YouTube, blogs, Instagram, the perfect morning has become this terrifying thing.
It's become a competitive sport, hasn't it?
Totally. It's always, wake up at 3, 4, 5 a.m., take an ice bath, meditate for an hour in total silence, run a half marathon, write a novel, and maybe then you can have a cup of coffee.
I mean, it's exhausting just hearing the list. I call it the optimization trap.
The optimization trap. I like that.
Yeah, we've somehow convinced ourselves that if a routine isn't painful, or if it doesn't require like military-grade discipline, it's not actually productive. We've started equating suffering with progress.
Which is exactly why I'm so obsessed with the source material we're looking at today. It's a protocol from the Easy English podcast called Lena's Morning Ritual for Language Mastery. And on the surface, it looks really simple.
Deceptively simple, maybe.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, isn't it? Complex systems, they often break. Simple ones stick.
That's it.
So, our mission today is to really unpack this. We're not just recounting a nice story about a woman named Lena having breakfast. We're going to tear this thing apart, see the mechanics underneath.
Right, because what she's doing is, well, it's a masterclass in behavioral psychology, habit stacking, cognitive science, all of it.
She's built a system to master a massive skill learning English without it ever feeling like work.
And that's the absolute key. It's a protocol for real people, not for a productivity influencer's perfect feed. It's all about seamless integration.
Okay, so let's dive in. The source sets the scene. It's 7:00 a.m. The alarm goes off.
A very reasonable hour.
Yeah.
No 4 a.m. starts here, thankfully.
It is. But this is the first, friction point. The source says, at first, she feels a little sleepy, which is maybe the most relatable sentence I've read all week.
It's the universal human condition. That moment of grogginess, it's biologically normal. It's called sleep inertia.
Right. And this is usually where the battle is lost. You hit snooze, or worse, you grab the phone and start doom scrolling.
Oh, the worst. You're immediately reactive. You're letting the world dictate your input before you've even had a thought of your own.
But Lena does something very specific here. She doesn't reach for the phone. She stays in bed, opens her eyes, and she smiles. Okay, stop right there. Because this sounds a little bit woo, a bit positive vibes only. Is there actually a real utility in lying in bed and smiling at the ceiling?
There is, actually. There's some fascinating hard science here. It's called the facial feedback hypothesis.
Facial feedback.
Okay. So the brain doesn't just tell the face what to do. The face actually tells the brain how to feel.
Huh.
By physically forcing a smile, even if you don't feel like it, even if you're groggy, you're signaling safety and positivity to your nervous system. You're basically manually overriding that little cortisol spike that can come with waking up.
So she's hacking her own hardware.
Precisely. She's jump-starting the serotonin. And then she pairs it with software. She says a specific phrase out loud.
Right. Good morning. Today will be a good day. But why say it out loud? Why not just think it?
Because speaking requires more cognitive engagement than just thinking. When you speak, you physically vibrate your vocal cords. You hear your own voice. It's a confirmation.
I see.
In psychology, we call it an implementation intention. She isn't just hoping it's a good day. She is, in a way, declaring the operating system for the next 12 hours.
She's setting the filter.
Exactly. If you say today will be a struggle, your brain will actually look for evidence of the struggle. If you say today will be a good day, your brain starts scanning for the good.
Okay, so she's awake. She's hacked her mood. Feet hit the floor. What's the very first physical action? The source says she immediately makes her bed.
The classic keystone habit.
Yeah, the text says she does it because she likes a clean room and it makes her feel calm. But there's got to be more to it than just aesthetics, right? This isn't just about being neat.
Oh, absolutely not. This is about environment design. In learning theory, we talk a lot about cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Yeah. If your environment is chaotic, you've got clothes on the floor, an unmade bed, clutter, your brain is constantly microprocessing that chaos. It's like a background app draining your battery.
So by making the bed, she's basically closing that browser tab in her brain.
Yes. And she's banking a win. Before she's even left the bedroom, she has successfully completed a task. It creates what I like to call a momentum of competence.
Oh, I love that phrase, momentum of competence.
She's proving to herself, I said I would do this and I did it. And that little win, it propels her into the harder stuff later on.
So environment primed, mindset primed. Now she moves to the bathroom, washing her face, brushing her teeth, all standard stuff.
Standard, yes.
Yeah.
Until she looks in the mirror.
Right. This is where it gets a little unusual. We're calling it the mirror practice. She looks herself in the eye and speaks English directly to her reflection. She says, "Good morning, Lena. How are you today?"
This is probably one of the most powerful and most underutilized tools in the whole routine.
But isn't it also the most awkward? I mean, let's be honest. If I walked in on someone talking to themselves in the mirror, I'd have a few questions.
Of course. It's incredibly awkward, and that's exactly why it works.
How so?
Look, the biggest barrier to learning a language, or really any performance skill, is something the linguist Stephen Krashen calls the affective filter.
The affective filter. Okay, let's unpack that.
Basically, it's just anxiety. When you're afraid of being judged, your brain puts up this wall. You can't learn, and you definitely can't speak. You freeze up.
Gee, I'm going to sound stupid, Fear.
That's the one.
Huh.
By talking to the mirror, Lena creates that zero judgment zone we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's no teacher there to correct her. There's no native speaker to look confused.
So it bridges the gap between thinking a sentence and actually speaking it.
Yes. She's proving to herself that she can speak English physically before she has to do it socially. And there's a deep identity shift here, too.
An identity shift.
James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. You don't just want to do a thing. You want to be the person. By looking in her own eyes and speaking English, she is reinforcing the identity. I am an English speaker.
It's not just something she's studying. It's who she is.
Correct. And doing that first thing in the morning just sets the tone for the entire day.
Okay, so she's had her pep talk. She's washed up. Now we move to the kitchen. Breakfast time.
The fuel.
The menu is super simple. Coffee, bread, fruit. She's not overthinking the food. But the source says, while eating, Lena practices English. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. We usually say multitasking is a myth, right?
It is.
Is she breaking the rules here?
That's a great question, and it's a crucial distinction. Multitasking, like trying to write an important email while listening to a podcast, is bad. That's called cognitive switching, and it just ruins your focus on both tasks.
Right. You end up with a bad email and no memory of the podcast.
Exactly. But what Lena is doing is habit stacking, or input stacking.
Okay, so what's the difference?
She's pairing a high cognitive task, which is learning English, with a low cognitive automatic task, eating breakfast. You don't need to focus to chew toast, right? Mm-hmm. Your brain is on autopilot.
So she's reclaiming what would otherwise be dead time.
Exactly. But notice how she listens. It's not just background noise. The source says she listens slowly and carefully.
And then she does something called shadowing. It says sometimes she repeats the sentences out loud.
This is the absolute gold standard for improving pronunciation. Shadowing isn't just repeating words. It's mimicking the music of the language.
The music.
The intonation, the rhythm, the pauses. It's like learning a song, right? You don't just read the lyrics. You have to sing along to get the melody.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So by doing this over breakfast, her kitchen basically becomes a language lab. And again, notice the privacy. Just her and her coffee. High repetition, low stakes.
I imagine that also helps with the muscle memory of your mouth making these, weird new shapes.
It's athletic training for your tongue, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, breakfast is done. She's caffeinated. She's shadowed. Now comes the reading block. She reads a short story.
And the timing here is no accident.
Right. The text explicitly says she does this because her mind is fresh.
And we need to talk about decision fatigue. As the day goes on, your willpower battery just drains. Every little decision, every email, it drains your cognitive reserve.
And by 8 p.m., the idea of decoding a foreign language is just painful. Your brain rebels.
That's when you just want to watch Netflix in your own language and turn your brain off.
Yeah.
By front-loading the hardest cognitive lift reading to the morning, she guarantees she actually does it. She's trading her best energy for her most important goal.
And let's look at what she's reading. She's not trying to read Shakespeare or some dense legal contract. She's reading short stories in English for beginners.
This is the Goldilocks principle. In language learning, we call it comprehensible input.
Meaning it has to be understandable.
Well, it has to be mostly understandable. If you understand 0%, it's just noise. You tune out. If you understand 100%, you aren't learning anything new. You want to be at like 80 or 90%.
You want to struggle a little bit.
A little bit, yes. The source says these stories are short and easy, so she gets that dopamine hit of actually finishing something. That's vital.
So she feels competent. I just read a story in English.
Exactly. And that feeling is what keeps her coming back tomorrow. It's so interesting how this whole routine seems designed to protect her confidence.
Yeah, every step is set up to make her feel like she's winning.
If the routine made her feel stupid, she'd stop. Habits only stick if they feel rewarding.
Okay, so she's read her story. Now we loop back to self-talk, round 2, but this time it's different.
It's future tense.
Yeah, in the bathroom it was present state. How are you? Now she's looking forward. The source gives examples like, today I will work. I will drink coffee. I will do my best.
This is just brilliant because she's bridging the gap between grammar rules on a page and her actual real life.
Right.
I mean, usually you learn future tense by filling out worksheets, and John will go to the library. Who cares about John?
That is boring.
But I will do my best is personal. She's using the grammar to structure her own reality. It makes the language a tool for living, not just a subject to study.
And it also doubles as another affirmation.
Efficiency at its finest.
So we're approaching the door. She's about to leave. But there's one final boss battle she has to fight.
The smartphone.
The enemy of focus. The source says she finally checks her phone, but she has very strict rules. She reads exactly one English message or one short post.
That level of restraint is, wow, it's rare. Most of us open the phone and just fall into a 20-minute black hole.
But here's the key instruction she gives herself, and I think this might be the philosophical core of the whole deep dive. She tries to think in English, not translate.
Think, don't translate.
Why is that distinction so critical? I mean, to an outsider, isn't the result the same? You see the words, you understand them.
The result might look the same on the surface, but the process inside the brain is completely different. Translation is a middleman.
Walk us through that.
Okay, imagine you see a cup of coffee. If you're translating, your brain goes, image of cup. Your native word for cup. Search the dictionary. English word. Coffee. It's a 3-step process.
It's slow, clunky.
Very clunky. It's like running an emulator on a computer. It lags. It uses a ton of RAM. Thinking in English is trying to wire the brain directly. Image of cup, coffee. No middleman.
But that's got to be incredibly hard for a beginner.
It's the hardest thing to do. It feels impossible at first. But by just setting the intention, I'm going to try to catch myself translating and stop. She's training that neural pathway. Even if she only succeeds for 2 seconds, those are valuable seconds.
It sounds like meditation. You try to clear your mind, you fail, you bring it back. The bringing it back is the actual exercise.
That's a perfect analogy. She is building the direct highway between a concept in English, and over time, that highway gets faster and faster.
So let's look at the result of all this. She's gone through the whole circuit. She gets dressed. She opens the front door. How does she feel?
The source is explicit. She feels calm and she feels confident.
And just contrast that with the normal morning most of us have. You know, you overslept, you skipped breakfast, scrolled through chaos on your phone, rushed out the door already feeling behind.
You start the day in a deficit. Lena starts in a surplus. She's already accomplished 5 or 6 important things before she even clocks in at work.
And the source wraps it all up with this philosophy. She knows that practicing English every morning helps her improve little by little.
Little by little. That is the complete antithesis of modern cram culture.
Totally. We all know that person who ignores their goals for 3 weeks and then tries to study for 8 hours on a Sunday to catch up.
And it never works. The brain can't absorb that much at once. It's like trying to water a plant with a fire hose.
You just wash away the soil?
Exactly. You don't nourish the roots. Lena is doing drip irrigation. 30 minutes a day, every single day. It's the compound interest of skill building.
The consistency beats the intensity.
Every single time.
So let's zoom out for a second. We've been talking about learning English, but what if you, our listener, don't care about that? Maybe you're trying to learn to code or get better at public speaking. Does this protocol still hold up?
I think the architecture is universal. You can just swap out the variables.
Give me an example.
Okay, so you want to learn to code. Step 1, wake up, affirmative mindset. I am a problem solver. Step 2, make the bed. Clear space, clear mind. Step 3, breakfast. Listen to a tech news brief. Input stacking.
And the fresh mind block.
Instead of a story, solve one tiny coding problem. Just one. Then narrate what you plan to code today. It's the exact same loop.
So it's about anchoring the new identity to the existing biological rhythm of your morning.
You're piggybacking the new habit onto the survival habits you already have. Sleeping, eating, washing. You're already doing the heavy lifting of waking up. You just attach the new habit to it.
So here's the challenge for you, the listener. We want you to just audit your morning.
Don't judge it, just watch it, like a scientist.
Right. Where is the friction? Where is the dead time? Do you have 10 minutes where you're just doom scrolling?
Could you swap just one of those passive habits for an active one? You don't have to do the full Lena protocol tomorrow. That's too much.
Little by little, right.
Right. Start with just the affirmation. Or try the mirror talk. It feels weird, I promise you, but try it. Look yourself in the eye and say, I'm a learner. See if that shifts your vibe for the day.
Or even just the no phone until I've created something rule. I mean, that alone might change your life.
It changes the power dynamic, doesn't it? You're acting on the world rather than waiting for the world to act on you.
Before we wrap this up, I want to circle back to one thing. That think, don't translate idea.
It's a powerful one.
It stuck with me because it makes me wonder about the narrative in our heads. We are constantly narrating our lives, usually in our native language and usually on autopilot. I'm tired. This traffic sucks. I'm going to be late.
The internal radio is always playing, and usually the station is set to Complaint FM.
So here's a provocative thought to leave you with. If you started narrating your life in a new language, or even just using a new, more empowering vocabulary the moment you woke up, how would that change not just your skills, but the way you actually perceive your reality?
That is the ultimate question. Language shapes perception. If you change the words you use to describe your morning, you might just find you're living in a different morning.
Something to mull over while you make your bed tomorrow. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Keep learning. You know, there's this quote I love, I think it's Joan Didion, who said, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live." And usually you hear that and you think of these, big epic novels or memoirs.
The grand narratives.
Exactly. But I was looking at our source material for today, and it just hit me how we do this on a micro level every single day.
Oh, absolutely. It's the how is your day question. It's the fundamental way we organize the chaos of our lives. We take this stream of data noise, stress, coffee, and we wrestle it into a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes. And today we are doing a deep dive into a source that takes that very basic human impulse, the need to recap our week, and turns it into this, surprisingly sophisticated tool for learning a new language.
It really is.
We're looking at a text called Maya's Week, an English learning story from the Easy English podcast.
And I want to set the stage here immediately, because if you just glance at that title, you might think, okay, so we're reading a children's story.
Or, why are we analyzing a fictional woman's commute?
It sounds so basic, incredibly basic. But the mission here is different. We are analyzing this text as a piece of, engineering.
Engineering. That's a strong word for a story about answering emails and drinking tea.
It is, but I think it fits. This text is a mateen. It's designed to teach vocabulary, sentence structure, and specifically, the rhythm of recounting time. It strips language down to its absolute chassis.
Okay, I like that.
So our goal today is to look under the hood of Maya's Week and see how a simple narrative actually creates this really robust framework for fluency.
So we're moving from once upon a time to here's the schematic.
Exactly.
And the source material we have is really three things. There's the narrative itself, then a set of specific English tips.
About prepositions, which are a nightmare for everyone.
Always.
Yeah.
Then there's a book recommendation for further learning.
Right. It's a complete little package. And for our listeners who fit that learner profile, maybe you're brushing up on language, or maybe you're just interested in how we communicate efficiently, this is a masterclass in stripping away the fluff.
So let's start where the text starts. It doesn't drop us into the stress of Monday morning.
No, it doesn't. And that's a crucial pedagogical choice. It opens on a Sunday evening. Maya is at home, she's drinking tea, and she is thinking.
And the text explicitly says, "Let me tell you about my week."
And that phrase, "let me tell you," that's the key. It establishes the entire text as a retrospective. From a learner's perspective, this is vital.
Why is that?
Because it signals that we're operating in the past tense. The hard work is over. We aren't in the crisis. We are remembering the crisis.
It creates a safety buffer.
Exactly. It lowers the heart rate. I mean, if you're learning a language, trying to describe what's happening right now is incredibly stressful.
Because it's fluid. You're reacting.
You're reacting. But describing what already happened allows you to control the pace. Maya, with her tea on a Sunday, she's the narrator, not the victim.
That is a great distinction. It turns the learner into an observer. So she's in this reflective mode, safe on her sofa, and she takes us back to the beginning.
The universal enemy.
Monday. The text is very specific here. On Monday, Maya went to work early. And then it hits us with the task.
She had many emails to answer.
Now, why does the source focus on emails? Is it just to be modern?
It's about frequency and utility. When you're designing a text for learners, which this is, you want to use high utility vocabulary. You don't teach the word for blacksmithing in lesson 1.
Right.
Emails is a word that transcends culture. It's the universal currency of work. But look at the sentence that follows. This is where the engineering comes in.
You mean the emotional check-in?
Yes. The text says she felt a little tired.
Which, again, super relatable. Who isn't tired on a Monday?
But
she stayed positive.
Okay, let's pause on that but. In linguistics, we talk about conjunctions as the hinges of a sentence. For a learner, the word but is a massive milestone.
It introduces contrast.
Right. It allows you to hold two opposing ideas in your head at the same time. I am physically tired versus I am mentally positive.
It adds nuance. Without the but, you're just a robot stating facts. I am tired. I am positive. It sounds disjointed.
Precisely. The but creates a relationship. It builds character. Just that one sentence tells us Maya's resilient. She acknowledges the fatigue, but she overrides it. And then the pattern repeats. We move to Tuesday.
On Tuesday, the text anchors us again.
That repetition is so intentional. On Monday, on Tuesday, it's drilling the preposition on for days of the week, as we'll get to later. But what happens Tuesday?
A team meeting. And the source describes it as long.
Again, a negative or challenging attribute. Long implies tedious.
But it's immediately followed by, but it went well.
See the formula. Challenge plus resolution.
It is a formula. And then the text gives us her evening routine. She cooked dinner and watched TV.
Simple, high-frequency verbs. Cooked, watched. But think about the scope here. In just 2 days, the text has covered professional communication, professional collaboration, domestic labor, and leisure.
It's covering the 4 corners of a standard life. It's surprisingly comprehensive for being so short.
Exactly. It's a simulation of a complete lifestyle using minimal vocabulary. It gives the learner the tools to describe like 80% of their actual lived experience.
Now, as we move into the middle of the week, the source narrative shifts gears a bit. Wednesday feels different.
The environment changes. The text says, on Wednesday, Maya worked from home.
Which is a very specific modern context, and frankly, a necessary phrase to know in 2026.
It is. And notice the sensory change. Monday and Tuesday were implied to be busy, loud, maybe chaotic. Wednesday is described as quiet.
She explicitly says she liked this day, and the activity changes to match that vibe. She listened to music while working.
And that structure while working is interesting. It introduces simultaneity, doing 2 things at once. But more importantly, it introduces the concept of flow.
Flow? How so?
Well, Monday was about answering emails. That's reactive. Wednesday is about finishing tasks. That's proactive.
I hadn't noticed that shift from reactive to proactive. That's subtle.
It's very subtle, but for a learner, it frames work differently. It shows that work isn't just suffering. It can have a rhythm. You can control the environment.
But then, of course, the roller coaster goes back up. We can't stay in the flow forever. Thursday hits.
The peep stress point.
The text says, on Thursday, she felt busy again. That word again is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
It is. The reality principle returns. The inbox is full again.
And she has many things to do.
Yeah.
But this is where I think the text offers its most valuable life lesson, not just English lesson. It describes her coping mechanism.
What did she do?
In the evening, she went for a short walk to relax.
Went for a walk. That's a collocation, a group of words that naturally go together. We don't say did a walk.
Right. We go for a walk. And the purpose is explicit, to relax. We've seen watching TV as relaxation, but this adds physical movement to the toolkit.
It balances the narrative. If the story was just emails, meetings, tasks, it would be depressing. It would just be burnout. By adding the walk, the text acknowledges that Maya has agency.
She takes care of herself.
She physically removes herself from the workspace. It creates a balanced diet of a week. You have the professional stress, the flow state, and the physical recovery.
And that brings us to the payoff. Friday.
Everyone's favorite day.
The text shifts the emotions so clearly. On Friday, Maya felt happy.
Subject, verb, adjective. Maya felt happy. You cannot get clearer than that.
And the reason is aspirational. She finished her work early.
The dream.
But then we get this really interesting meta moment in the text. She met a friend and talked about the week.
I love this detail. Think about what's happening. Maya is telling us the story of her week. And inside the story, she meets a friend to tell them the story of her week.
It's like a mirror.
It reinforces the idea we started with, that recounting our time is a fundamental social skill. It's how we bond. I mean, you aren't just learning a language to order coffee.
Yeah.
You're learning it so you can sit down with a friend on a Friday and say, man, Monday was crazy.
That's the end goal, connection, not just transaction.
Exactly. That is the humanity inside the grammar.
So that wraps up the work week. But the source material doesn't stop there. It actually breaks down the weekend structure in a way that I found surprisingly rigid.
Oh, yeah. It distinguishes between Saturday and Sunday very clearly.
On Saturday, she cleaned the house and went shopping.
See, that's not rest. That's maintenance. That's domestic productivity.
It is. It's the chores day. You're resetting the stage for the next week. But then Sunday.
On Sunday, she relaxed, read a book, and prepared for the new week.
And that brings us full circle. She's back to the state we found her in at the beginning, relaxing, reading, preparing. The cycle is closed.
Mm-hmm.
She summarizes it at the end. She says, "This week was busy, but it was good." And she lists 3 achievements. "I worked hard, learned new things, and took time to rest."
That triad works: growth, rest. It's a simple sentence, but it's a profound summary of a good life. And linguistically, it forces the learner to practice the past tense of 3 very different verbs.
Oh, so.
Worked is regular, learned is regular, and took is irregular.
Ah. I didn't catch the irregular verb in there. Took instead of take.
Exactly. It sneaks the grammar lesson in through the narrative. You hear the rhythm of took time, and it just sticks.
Speaking of grammar lessons, we could pivot to the second part of our source material. The text explicitly includes a section called English Tip.
The tiny words that cause the biggest headaches. Prepositions.
Right. The source highlights 3 specific structures. The first one is the on rule.
On Monday, on Tuesday. The rule is absolute. Days of the week take on. You never say in Monday or at Monday.
Why is that so hard for people, though? It seems straightforward.
Because prepositions are arbitrary. In other languages, that preposition might not exist, or it might be totally different. English demands the on. And the source drills this by repeating it 7 times. It's just brute force repetition.
Okay, then there's the second one. During the week.
During. It's a preposition of duration. It implies a span of time from start to finish. During the week, I was busy. It treats the week as a container you're inside of.
And the third one, which the source flags as a British versus American thing, is at the weekend.
Yes, at the weekend. Now, if you are in the U.S., you are probably screaming at your device right now, "It's on the weekend!"
I was about to say, I definitely say on the weekend.
And that's fine. That is correct American usage.
Yeah.
But the source material here is leaning towards British English, where at the weekend is standard. It treats the weekend as a specific point in time, like at 5:00 p.m.
Interesting. So on is like a surface and at is like a point.
Roughly, yes. But the key takeaway from the source isn't just memorizing the rule, it's seeing it in context. You learn at the weekend, because that's when Maya rests. You associate the word with the feeling.
The source also makes a very strong assertion here. It says basically in bold letters, simple sentences are perfect.
I want to frame this for our listeners because this is huge. This runs counter to everything we're usually taught in school, right?
Yeah, we want to sound smart. We want to use big words, subordinate clauses, semicolons.
We want to impress people. But when you are learning a language, or even just communicating clearly in a meeting, complexity is often the enemy. It increases cognitive load.
Cognitive load. Break that down.
It's the amount of mental processing power you have available at any given moment. Your brain is like a computer's RAM. It has a limit.
Okay.
So if you're trying to construct a sentence like, "Despite the voluminous nature of my correspondence, I maintained a cheerful disposition," your brain is working overtime. You're likely to crash.
You're going to trip over your own tongue. Or you'll hesitate and lose the listener.
Exactly. But if you do what Maya does, I had many emails. I stayed positive. 2 simple sentences. You communicate 100% of the meaning with 10% of the mental effort.
So the source is validating that simplicity isn't stupidity.
Simplicity is clarity.
Yeah.
Simplicity is confidence. It actually takes more confidence to speak simply because you aren't hiding behind jargon.
That's a powerful reframing. You don't need to be Shakespeare to be effective. You just need to be Maya.
Be Maya. State the facts. I worked. I rested. It was good.
Now, for people who are buying into this, who see the value in this approach, the source material actually provides a next step. It recommends a specific book.
Yes, it points to a book called Learn English Through Stories. 16 stories to improve your English grammar and English vocabulary.
A bit of a literal title. No mystery there.
No, but it tells you exactly what you're getting. And the logic here is based on a concept in linguistics called comprehensible input.
What does that mean?
It's the idea that we don't learn language best by memorizing rules in a vacuum. We learn by being exposed to language that is just slightly above our current level, but still understandable because of the context.
And stories provide that context.
They do. Because if I don't know the word relax, but I read that Maya went for a walk to relax after a busy day, I can infer the meaning.
The narrative fills in the blanks.
Exactly. You aren't decoding, you are absorbing. The book recommendations suggest building a library of these little life simulations. So you're not just memorizing the dictionary definition of email, you're learning email as the thing that happens on Monday morning that makes you tired.
You're anchoring the vocabulary to an experience.
That is how it sticks in long-term memory. It moves from your head to your gut.
So let's zoom out a bit. We've walked through Maya's week, we've dissected the grammar, but I want to go back to that idea of control and narrative.
Sure.
We said Maya isn't complaining, she's reporting.
Hmm.
It strikes me that this format, this simple weekly report, is actually a mindfulness exercise.
It absolutely is. Think about how we usually talk about our weeks. We tend to catastrophize. Oh, it was a nightmare. I was drowning.
We use hyperbole.
Yeah.
We emphasize the emotion over the event.
Right. But Maya's format forces you to strip away the drama and just look at the data. On Monday, I answered emails. On Thursday, I walked. It creates a distance between you and the stress.
You become the observer of your own life.
And when you do that in a second language, you have to be even more intentional. You have to choose the word positive. You are literally constructing the narrative of your life word by word.
It empowers you to define your reality. If you say, it was a good week, then in a way, it becomes a good week.
Precisely. Language shapes perception. If you have the vocabulary to describe your rest, you might actually rest better.
It's funny, looking at this source, I realize how sloppy I am with my own weekly recaps. If someone asks me how my week was, I usually just grunt.
Right, fine. Busy. Which communicates nothing and builds no connection.
But if I used Maya's template, on Monday I was tired, on Wednesday I found flow, on Friday I saw a friend. It's so much richer, strangely, for being so simple.
Because it's specific. Specificity creates connection. If you tell me you went for a walk, I can picture that.
Yeah.
If you tell me you were busy, I don't know what that means. I can't see busy.
That's the takeaway for me. Specificity and simplicity.
Elegance of the basics.
So we have a little challenge for you listening right now. We want you to try this. We want you to think about your last 7 days.
The highs, the lows, the boring parts.
Especially the boring parts. If you had to distill your week into Maya's format, using only those simple sentences, no complex grammar, just on day I did action, what would your story sound like?
Would it be, on Tuesday I survived, or on Friday I collapsed?
Or maybe, on Sunday I listened to a deep dive.
I like that one best.
And remember, the goal isn't to have a perfect week. It's to be able to say, it was busy, but it was good. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to tap into a feeling that I think is pretty universal, but we rarely talk about it openly because, well, it's a little embarrassing. It's that feeling of looking at a textbook, maybe for Spanish or Python, or in our case today, English, and just feeling this physical weight on your chest. You've got the app, you've got the list of verbs, the flashcards, and you just feel, I don't know, paralyzed.
Oh, I know that feeling intimately. It's the wall.
The wall.
It's that moment where the sheer volume of what you don't know completely eclipses what you do know.
Yeah.
It's just daunting. You look at the mountain and think, I have to climb this whole thing right now or I'm a failure.
Exactly. And the advice we always get is, push harder, grit your teeth, wake up at 4 a.m., drink 3 espressos, and just drill until it sticks. No pain, no gain, right? But today, we are looking at a source that suggests the complete opposite. We're unpacking a text called Adam's Blueprint for Effortless English Mastery.
Yeah.
It comes out of the Easy English podcast world, and it presents this case study of a guy named Adam.
And Adam is such a fascinating figure here. Not because he's some linguistic genius or a memory champion. He's interesting because he represents the everyman learner. He's kind of the anti-hero of language learning. The blueprint he uses completely flips the script on that grind mindset.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. We are not here to teach you the difference between who and whom or explain the past perfect tense. We're here to really reverse engineer Adam's routine. We want to understand the psychology behind why a low-stress, almost lazy approach might actually work better.
Lazy is a provocative word, but in this context, it might be the highest form of efficiency. We're going to look at how doing less, but doing it with a very specific mindset, creates what the source calls effortless mastery.
So let's get the lay of the land. Who is this Adam? The text gives us a pretty specific profile, and I think a lot of people listening are going to see themselves in this description.
Right. So Adam isn't a total beginner. He's not, staring at the alphabet for the first time. The text places him in that tricky, really frustrating middle ground. He understands some English. He can probably order a coffee or something, but he's stuck. He wants to speak confidently, but he feels that massive gap between what's in his head and what actually comes out of his mouth.
The dreaded intermediate plateau.
Exactly. It's the hardest place to be because the gains aren't obvious anymore. And the text notes a very relatable constraint. Adam doesn't have time. He's got a job, a life, maybe a family. He can't just commit to 4 hours of class every night.
I think that's the key differentiator. I mean, usually when you see these language success stories, the person has quit their job to go live in a hostel for 6 months. But Adam's method is really defined by what he doesn't do.
That's the first thing that jumped out at me. The source explicitly says Adam does not study for many hours. He rejects the idea that volume equals value. And psychologically, he rejects the stress of perfection. He isn't trying to sound like a BBC News anchor on day one.
So if he isn't cramming, what is he doing? The blueprint breaks his day down, which I love. It gives us a real tactical view, and it starts predictably in the morning.
The morning routine. And this is where we see the first major pillar. You could call it habit stacking.
The text says he wakes up early, which, okay, a little bit of effort there, but then he makes a cup of coffee.
It seems like a throwaway detail, he makes coffee, but it's actually crucial to the psychology. He's anchoring the learning process to a reward that already exists.
Oh.
He wants the coffee. The coffee makes him feel good. By attaching the English practice to the coffee, he's hacking his own reward system. It's not, time to study grammar. It's time for my morning ritual.
And what's the actual activity? The source says he listens to an English podcast for exactly 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
That sounds, I don't know, suspiciously low. Can you really make progress with 10 minutes a day? My old French teacher would have a heart attack.
Well, in a high school classroom, maybe not. But for independent learning, you have to look at how he's listening. This is the secret sauce the text highlights. He listens slowly, and this is the part that's going to be hard for a lot of people to accept. He does not worry about understanding every single word.
Oh, that is the hardest advice to follow. I mean, if I miss a word in another language, my brain just hits the emergency brake. I stop listening to the rest of the sentence because I'm obsessing over the one word I missed. What was that? Was it important? And poof, the thread is gone.
And that panic is the enemy. In linguistics, there's something called the affective filter. Think of it like a gate in your brain. When you're anxious or stressed, that gate slams shut. Information just bounces off. You can listen for an hour, but if you're panicking, you absorb nothing. It's wasted time.
So Adam is intentionally keeping the gate open.
Precisely. The text says he just listens and relaxes. By accepting that ambiguity, by saying, it's okay, I didn't get that, he keeps his cortisol levels down. Yeah. He's training his brain to be comfortable with the flow of the language, not treat it like a code he has to crack in real time.
It's almost like listening to music. You don't analyze every single note. You just let the melody wash over you.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And because it's relaxing, in only 10 minutes, he does it every single day. The source hammers this point. Consistency over intensity. 10 minutes every day for a year is infinitely better than 5 hours once a month.
Okay, so the morning is about passive, relaxed input. He's filling the tank. Now we move to the afternoon, and the blueprint suggests a shift from input to output.
The afternoon routine. Now, Adam is at home. Maybe he's doing chores, whatever. But he starts speaking.
Well, he's alone.
Yes. The text says he speaks out loud at home. Sometimes he talks to himself.
I feel like there's a stigma around talking to yourself. You know, if I walked in on my roommate having a full conversation with the lamp, I'd be a little concerned. But why is it so powerful for Adam?
Because it removes the social stakes.
Yeah.
We mentioned that affective filter. Well, nothing spikes anxiety like an audience. If you try to practice a new sentence in a business meeting, the cost of failure feels incredibly high. You feel like you look incompetent.
Right. You freeze up. You just default to the simplest words you know to survive.
Exactly. But in your living room, the only witness is the couch. By talking to himself, Adam is building the muscle memory of the mouth. Speaking is a physical tongue placement, breath control. You need to do the reps, just like a tennis swing. He's doing the reps in a safe place, so when he does have to speak, the mechanics are there.
The text actually gives us the script he uses. He doesn't just ramble. He uses specific affirmations. I want to read these because they seem really intentional. He says, today I'm studying English. I want to speak English better, and I am improving every day.
These are such interesting choices. They aren't just vocabulary drills. They're identity statements.
Identity statements. What do you mean by that?
Well, look at the phrasing. I am improving, not I hope to improve. He's reinforcing his identity as a successful learner. There's a lot of psychology around self-talk. If you tell yourself, I'm terrible at this, your brain looks for evidence to prove you right. Adam is programming his brain to look for evidence of progress.
It lines up perfectly with that core philosophy mentioned in the text. Practice is more important than perfection.
That's the mantra right there. The perfectionist waits until they're ready to speak. The practitioner speaks in order to get ready. Adam gets that stumbling through a sentence in his kitchen is just the price you pay for speaking fluently later on. He's normalizing the mistake.
So you've got relaxed morning input, low pressure afternoon output. Now the day winds down, the evening routine. The text says Adam reads.
But again, look at the constraints. He isn't reading, James Joyce or some dense newspaper.
Yeah. The source is very specific, short English stories. And it gives two reasons. They're easy and they're interesting.
Interesting is the key word there.
Yeah.
In learning sciences, we call this comprehensible input. If the material is too hard, you tune out. If it's too boring, you tune out.
And stories hit that sweet spot.
Humans are wired for narrative. We want to know what happens next. When you're reading a story, your brain is focused on the plot, not the grammar. And that's the trick. You're tricking your brain into absorbing the language because it wants the information inside the language.
We actually have a list of the specific books he uses. One is Short Stories in English for Beginners by Teach Yourself.
A classic. That's the graded reader approach.
Yeah.
Controlled vocabulary, simple sentences, but a real narrative. It gives you the dopamine hit of actually finishing a book in another language. That's huge for confidence.
And then there's this one, Learn English Through Stories. The title says it improves your grammar and vocabulary through the stories.
This gets at the debate between explicit and implicit learning. Explicit is, here is the rule, memorize it. Implicit is, you read a story where a character says, I had already eaten when he arrived. You see that structure 10 times in different contexts. Eventually, your brain just maps it. You know it sounds right, even if you can't name the rule.
That's how we learn our first language, isn't it? I couldn't explain the technical rules of English grammar to save my life, but I know when a sentence is broken.
Exactly. You didn't study flashcards. You just acquired it through context. Adam is trying to replicate that natural process. He's seeing the grammar in the wild.
It's the difference between studying a map of a city and actually walking the streets.
Perfect analogy. The textbook is the map. The story is the walk. You develop an intuition for it.
There's a third resource mentioned, specifically for speaking confidence. It's Effortless English, Learn to Speak English Like a Native.
Which, it aligns perfectly with the whole Adam persona. That whole methodology is about this psychological shift we've been talking about. It's the capstone of his resource stack.
Now, despite all this talk about natural learning, Adam does use one physical tool. He carries a small notebook.
The notebook is his safety net. But even here, there is a strict rule that keeps him from getting overwhelmed.
The text says, he does not write many words.
This is so fascinating. Most learners do the exact opposite. They hear a new word, they panic, they write it down. They end up with these massive lists of words they'll never use.
And then the list itself becomes a source of stress. It's a monument to what you don't know.
Right. Adam filters. The text says he writes down only useful words.
How does he define useful? That feels so subjective.
Well, in the context of this blueprint, useful just means relevant to his life. If he hears a word he'd actually use to describe his job or his feelings or his weekend, it goes in the book. If it's some obscure 19th century word, he just lets it go.
It's the 80-20 rule for vocabulary.
100%. In any language, a tiny percentage of words make up most of daily conversation. Adam is hunting for that core percentage. He's curating his own personal dictionary.
He's protecting his mental bandwidth.
And keeping it manageable. If you have 5 words at the end of the day, you can master them. If you have 50, you ignore them all.
Okay, we've covered the routine, but I want to talk about the reality of this, because the source material admits something really important. It says, sometimes Adam feels tired, sometimes he feels busy.
I love that the text includes that. It grounds the whole thing in reality. It acknowledges that life gets in the way.
We've all been there. You have a great plan on Monday, but by Thursday, work is crazy, the car breaks down, and you just want to crash.
And this is where most learners quit. They miss one day, they feel guilty, the guilt turns into avoidance, and the habit dies.
So what's Adam's solution?
He redefines what success looks like for the day. The text says 10 minutes, 20 minutes, that is enough.
Enough. That is such a liberating word.
It really is. We're conditioned to think that if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. Adam's blueprint says, no, the only thing that matters is you didn't quit. A 10-minute session on a bad day keeps the momentum alive.
Hit 0.
Exactly. And because he keeps the bar low, he can step over it even when he's exhausted.
And what's the cumulative effect of all this? The text describes the outcome after a few weeks. Obviously, he understands more English.
But look at the emotional outcome. The text says he speaks with more confidence. Adam smiles.
Adam smiles. That's not a metric you usually see on a report card. You don't get graded on smiling.
But in language learning, it's arguably the most important metric. The smile tells us the affective filter is down. He isn't dreading it anymore. He's enjoying it.
And if he's enjoying it, he's going to keep doing it.
That's the positive feedback loop. Success breeds motivation, which breeds more practice, which breeds more success. Adam has engineered a system where he wins every single day.
It's really a story about sustainability. The best study plan isn't the most rigorous one. It's the one you can actually stick with.
Consistency eats intensity for breakfast.
Yeah.
Every time.
So let's zoom out. If we're summarizing Adam's blueprint for our listeners, what are the pillars we need to take away from this?
I'd boil it down to 3. First, input first and keep it relaxed. 10 minutes of listening where you prioritize the flow, not the details.
Yeah.
Second, low stakes output. Talk to yourself. Use affirmations. Remove the fear so you can build the muscle memory.
Okay.
And third, context over rules. Use stories to learn how the language works naturally instead of trying to brute force grammar.
And underneath all of that is the permission to just do less.
The permission to be efficiently lazy. To realize that 20 minutes of happy engagement is worth more than 3 hours of miserable drilling.
It makes me wonder, and I want to leave you with this thought, if Adam can achieve confidence in a complex skill like a new language just by relaxing and doing 20 minutes a day, what else are we making too difficult?
That is the big question, isn't it? We often equate suffering with virtue. If we aren't suffering, we think we aren't working hard enough. But Adam shows that ease might actually be the most direct path to mastery.
Efficiency versus effort. Maybe the goal isn't to try harder. Maybe the goal is to try softer.
Try softer. I love that. I'm going to write that in my notebook.
I think we could all use a little more of Adam's approach. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Adam's blueprint. Hopefully you're walking away with a little less stress.
And a little more confidence. Happy learning.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.